On my last stream, I was working on some tile art and a little bit of code to make it so that when um, when a player is building a floor or a wall, it'll automatically choose the right piece of artwork for whichever tile they're building. So if they put down like one tile of wall, it'll just be a column. If they put down like a plus sign shape of walls, it'll pick some flat wall segments, and it'll pick a intersection segment in the middle. I'm going to try and use this technique for floors and for walls and for a roof. It'll make more sense with some pictures. Here's the original in this window to the right. The little pink or purplish indicators here are the edges of a tile. And here's this little small image up here. Let me zoom in on. That would be the sprite sheet, which doesn't look like much. I've got one with some actual art, which I'll show in a minute. In any case, the goal is simply to pick out of the sprite sheet and pick a tile that has the right edges. For example, this little piece the mouse is over on now has 4 edges. This one only has 2 edges and is a corner, and so forth. Let me find the version with art, and maybe it'll make a little more sense. So here's the tile map of a wood floor pattern I drew. It doesn't look like much because this is supposed to be about 16 tiles, a little bit extra stuff here at the bottom. And all this really does is it has an edge drawn on certain sides of the wood. For example, this area here that I'm highlighting, it's a center tile. Actually, it goes from here to here. Yeah, it goes from here to here. This would be a center tile. It has no edge, whereas here in the top left, we have something that has 4 edges. It doesn't look like too much, but I'll load it up anyways. Where it starts to make a difference, the detection of an edge, is when I have a wall, because the edge is visibly very discernible. So here's the template pattern, the gray thing I've shown. And I can't remember what I named the file, but one of these is the actual art version. Yeah, this one. So here you can see a little bit of what I'm going for. Basically just that there's a nice edge drawn. In this case, it doesn't really matter for a floor. Like the floor, I could have tiled any pattern and it probably would look okay, but one of the little things I went for is you see these teeny little pieces of wood along the edges here. That's how I denote like the edge of the floor. It's really too detailed of a drawing. It doesn't really matter. It makes a bit of a difference when we have a big square, so there's a lot of center area and edge area, and because that's how a house is going to look. Let me load that up. Oh, so this is the pattern I'm going to use for a wall, but this isn't the right thing I wanted to show. I wanted to show one with only this white area filled in. There we go. So here the tile that has an infinite repeating pattern is selected for the middle, and then the edges get this little pattern of like slightly smaller pieces of wood. And this will just be automatic. Like if the player were to be building these tiles and they were to just keep adding tiles to the edge of it, it would just keep changing the pattern of whatever's adjacent to it to be whatever fits the nicest. In any case, for the floor, it's not too big of a deal, but for the wall, which I've just started on, I've just got the template for it drawn, it is a bigger deal. And let me find where I put that. So here is the template for the wall. I just drawn in gray like I drew it before. It's a little hard to visually make out, but I put the little pink indicators where the edge of the wall is. These are just random patterns, so it's not sensical, but let me make it into the shape that the house is going to be in. So here's the shape that the house is going to be in. This goes with the little NPC lumberjack AI thing I was working on before, which was just drawn in plain flat squares. This is going to be the actual art for it. In any case, I've started drawing the textured piece for this, which you can kind of see it in the spreadsheet. It's really tiny, it's up here. But I'm going to work on continuing to draw that until all these things are filled in with something that looks vaguely like wood. Even though I plan on drawing it all now, I'm pretty sure that the drawing I'm choosing to do for this is going to be the wrong size for the game. I've just made these walls twice as tall as a tile. The tile is 16 pixels in the spreadsheet, and I've just made, the wall 32 pixels tall. I think for the actual characters, they're all a little short, and I might want to make the wall some other size, but I'll just draw it in and then later put some of the character artwork near it and see what looks good. Here's my drawing. This used to be just the piece that's supposed to be a column, and I drew over it, and I'm just going to take this style and draw over everything else, and then periodically see how it looks and check in on it. I made this little pattern with these boards up here, and it's supposed to be like a nail or a peg, and I'm going to make it so that if the wall is long there, it'll just look like one long board. These don't look like they line up right, but I guess I'll just draw it and we'll see how it lines up. So I guess this part of the pattern is a wall, which is going to have a wall both to its left and to its right, and so it needs to have no edges along its left and right so that it'll merge into the next pattern, I think. I will draw it and then we'll just have to see how it comes out. I'm not too used to this program, so it might be a little slow at first here. So all I'm trying to draw here is just something that will tile infinitely in a left-to-right fashion. guess I'm going to have to do something different with the top, because here I went for kind of like a square looking cross section of a tree, which I'm not really sure why I drew it, but I guess I'm going to need something that suggests left-right as well. Maybe I'll just make something that looks like horizontal grain. So that will probably look okay. I'm just going to copy and paste that all for all the varying boards, and I can put some variety into it later. Wonder if that will look like something already. Okay, so here's a section that uses that. So it actually looks okay. I definitely need to fix the top, and I see there's a little bit of lightness, or dark light pixel here that kind of breaks the feeling of infinite pattern, but I can touch that up. And then I guess I think I am going to pick just a horizontal kind of line pattern for the top edge there. I don't really have any specific way of drawing this, just kind of arbitrarily. If there's more horizontal elements, it suggests that direction. If there's more vertical elements, it suggests up and down. Ultimately, I think this top part of the pattern is going to be too busy looking. Actually, it's okay. I mean, it is busy looking, but it's not horrible. I think I'll remove this little, I don't know, groove or whatever in the wood. These really are just placeholders, so I guess that's approximately good enough. So I'm going to move on to the next. So this would be, if I'm remembering correctly, this next one was going to be the vertical wall segment. So it has an edge on the left and right side, and then this part won't even be visible, in theory, because there should be a corner or some other piece, but I'm going to draw it anyways, in case for some reason it is visible at certain times. Really what needs to go on this one is this bottom edge and the top edge. And some sense of vertical lines. Tastes sloppy, but probably good enough. Yeah, it's busy looking, but I'd say it looked like wood still. So now I'll start working on the corners and all these other pieces. I think there's a lot more pieces in total than there are used in this particular structure. Actually, I don't know. There are 4 corners. There's only, there should be 4 of these that border on open space on 3 sides, and it's only using 2 of them. But I think maybe I'll just flip the images and draw them all quickly. So I'm going to skip this one because it's not even in the pattern. The ones in the patterns are going to be the 4 corners, I guess is what I'm going to draw next. I don't think there are any corners even in that whole row. So here's the row with the corners. So what was this one? This one is a corner against the upright edge of whatever. So it needs no edge. It's the bottom and to the left. I'm using a brush, not a pencil. I should use the pencil. That actually might be good enough. This next one is against the bottom right, which means the front piece of the pattern, the part that I call the wall, is actually visible. So I'm going to do some drawing on there. This pattern has to merge on things against this edge. So that was this corner. Pattern's not perfect. Looks okay though. Definitely good enough. It's all about good enough for now. Especially since this wall is probably going to get cut by about 1/3 in height, which might mean the width I've decided for these boards might not line up in the final drawing. Time to draw the remaining corners of the structure. This next one's going to be the lower left corner, which is once again one where the face of the wall is visible. You can tell these colors are not right already. Like these dodge and burn tools just for lightening things arbitrarily. That might look okay, actually. So there, that was the lower left corner. Define top left corner, and then these guys, which are weird pieces. There's top left, where the wall is not visible. And then the two are the ones that faced in and out. Or they're missing their left and right sides. Should be this one and this one, I guess. I wonder if I drew these in such a way where the line they use overlaps. It kind of looks like I did. Well, this one's got a line that's below. Maybe these are just drawn incorrectly. I guess I'll see. It'll become apparent at some point along the drawing process. Here I am grabbing the top pixel of this one and the bottom pixel of the one above it. Well, looks okay anyways. So there are all the pieces that make up that pattern. Still quite a few before any random pattern would be skinned with this, which I'm just going to continue drawing. First, got to change the code to re-enable that random pattern, though. There we go. So this one has, yeah, I guess it's this bottom row that's 1 pixel too short. Although it doesn't really matter, so I'm going to leave it for now. So what was I supposed to be drawing? I'm supposed to draw something who has an edge only on the top side. Oops, that's the wrong one. Oh no, that's the right one. Given that this part is invisible on this one, I'm just going to leave it like that. Now this one has an edge only on the right side. This one has an edge only on the bottom, which means its wall is visible. A little confused as to where my edges are, as usual. I think this is the edge, although it's not an edge. Maybe this is the edge? I think this is the one that's messed up, because there shouldn't be a line here. And this would be something whose edge is only on the bottom. Is that right? No, actually. That gets into some of the complicated cases, actually, where things that are sort of kitty corner. So far I only look at whether something's above, below, or to the left, or to the right. But the kitty corner ones could matter if I wanted to make all the patterns perfect. But I don't, so I guess I'm just going to finish the current style of drawing and then make some mill tiles for it. One thing I might do, though, within this style is I might try and remove this sort of spirally grain pattern and make it... Actually, no, I'm going to leave the spirally grain. I'm just going to fill out the rest of the pattern. Although I think there's a mistake somewhere in this one. I'll have to look at the original to see which direction it's supposed to be. Here's another pattern I was experimenting with, which actually looks good. I just don't need it yet. There's the one I'm looking for. So a piece in that position is supposed to have an edge along its left wall only. Okay. So in this position, left edge only. It's coming along. So now these weird ones, which are ones with 3 edges. And I think those should be the last. Oh, and the center one. 3 edges, and the center one. So this one will be no edge on bottom. Just one of the easiest ones to draw. Yeah, that's the whole thing. And this next one is no edge on top. It's alright, no edge on top. Oh, I don't think it's that they're off by 1. I think it's just that my top border has a lot of variety in it, and I'm misperceiving that as not being a border. Because it's this row of pixels here. Well, it's a pretty sloppy way of doing it, but I think it's going to work out. I feel like the drawing on the top should be a little bit different than just kind of like randomly burning or what is this tool even called? Dodging or burning the edge. This one is in the center, so I guess it gets no edge. Only the top of it will be visible because it's a center piece of wall. I suppose it's one of the ones that'll visually repeat the most, so maybe I should make it tile a little bit better than some of the others. I say as I fill in the whole edge one color. And theoretically, the wall for this is never visible. Might mean I could use that part of the drawing to label them to make this a little easier. In theory, that's every permutation drawn. So I definitely could have done something more interesting with the top surfaces of them, because I could have made it so that this grain would have continued across them all just the same way as I did with the boards. But ultimately, I feel like it says wood quite a bit, just visually, so I kind of like that part of it. Now the question is, do I feel like accounting for these, which produce this edge here in the middle, or do I want to leave it as its own little separate board, which isn't the most horrible of visual artifacts? Let me confirm that's the right pattern, even in the end. Because this is a combination of wood pieces. It's a combination of a middle piece and it's hard to tell, actually. So here's a flat wall with nothing on it. Here's a T. I can see the T shape. That looks how I would have expected it to look. Okay, here's the case. So that is a piece whose border only faces the bottom. I don't think I've missed a case in my logic here. I think I drew one of them with a border and it didn't need a border. Let's go find it. It would be the piece with only a bottom edge. That would be... It's hard to tell just from looking at it. I think that's this one, because this one's only a left edge, this one's only a right edge, this one must be only a bottom edge. So, this guy. Yeah, and in fact I can see that here I did forget to draw this section here. This section here should be boards that continue infinitely, same as this section up above it, so I'm actually just going to copy and paste that. By the time this tile sheet gets all filled in with the drawings the way it is now, it's pretty impossible to decipher. I mean, I drew it, so I'm still used to looking at it, and I know which one of these is which part of the pattern for the most part. And I can tell that this is like, this one's open to the right, this one's open to the left, but it's still not that easy to just look at and figure out. So that should be the last of the visual artifacts gone. Well, there's the detail that I kind of suggested directionality in these boards, and these I just left as a little spiral. But actually I'm going to leave it because I know that the house scenario, which is what the drawing's actually for, looks pretty good. So there's the house, and I'm content with that. It looks good to me. Let me go stare at the floor scenario again, and then start thinking about drawing a roof. Now I'm doing everything with the same color theme because I was trying to suggest that it all came from the same material, the same type of wood. However, as consistent as it may be, it might be visually uninteresting. It might be more interesting to have a colored roof, or some sort of shingled pattern that looks different. I'm not sure. I guess I'm just going to draw it, because it's not like it takes forever to draw. And then make a decision later, and if I don't like it, at least I have some placeholder artwork. So there's the floor. I kind of wish I made these things one program so I could see the floor and the house at the same time. Then again, I guess my plan is to make this in pieces and then add it to the main code. But for the sake of getting to look at it, I'm just going to do a drawing where I'm going to copy and paste these things together. Literally a screen capture, which I'm going to cut out. I'll leave that in there and take a screen capture of the other one. I don't use this program much, so hopefully it has a clever way of cutting things out. Actually, it's a pixel perfect drawing. Everything's a square. I'll cut it out manually by highlighting squares. Is that gonna work? Yep, pieces of floor are visible through that. I think I'm already seeing what I knew I was gonna see. That my colors match too well to the point that it's bad. It's an interesting amount of zooming out for a single click. So there's the house. Where would be 100% scale in this program? So there's what it would look like in the game, roughly. The wood does match so much that it does, it is a visual challenge to see what's going on. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be, so I'm going to leave it. I may just lighten the floor or darken the wall or something like that for contrast's sake later on. Actually, it looks, it looks okay. I'm going to put in some of the grass texture in the background to get a better feel for how it's going to look in the end, and also copy and paste a character into it eventually. I also feel like this bottom pattern isn't aligned because it's supposed to have a little edge made out of small boards, and I don't see that quite yet. There it is. Yeah, maybe that edge actually does have some meaning now that I've drawn it. I said it was sort of pointless in the tile pattern, but I think it does something visually. It suggests the edge between it and the wall. Maybe if I make that lighter, which it is already, like I tried to make these boards just a teeny bit lighter than the main pattern. Maybe that'll be enough to visually pull together. Or darker. Could be significantly darker. That could be another idea. In any case, I can work with this. I would have thought that would have deleted the white, but what do I know? I think maybe the issue is that the layer is not a transparent layer, despite having this pattern. I'm pretty sure in this program that doesn't necessarily mean transparent. That could just mean that the layer is like a different size than the image. I'll just paste it all into a definitely transparent image. Yeah, default color is not transparency. So now I should be able to get to the transparency. I guess I want to make sure I'm not shaving off 1 pixel off this edge here, which I was going to do. There's probably some really clever way to use this pattern, this program, and just like type this stuff in and have it be exact, but I do not know it. Looks like it's to be the same problem. Well, we'll just do something simple, because the walls actually block all that anyways. Why do I feel like this layer is missing like 1 pixel from its edge? I think because it is. I think I might have deleted 1 pixel from its edge. I wonder if that'll still be in the memory. There it was. It was a couple undos away. Okay, it's definitely got its edge now. Alright, that looks pretty good. Now to rifle through some images and find the grass texture, so I can draw this hypothetical scene. There's a little piece of what I want, but not quite. See, it's an animation too. I've got one on my desktop actually. Okay, it has come time to find the wand tool. It's not this cool thing. Oh, it's right here. I see erasing does nothing. Beginnings of progress. Wonder if I can turn this into something that fills the whole screen. Well, it's going to have a few visual artifacts, but I think I could fill the screen with it more or less. Right, it's a little sloppy, but it is a background. Everything's a little sloppy. Yeah, it looks okay. So that's what it would look like. Colors could use some contrast, but ultimately it's going in the direction I'd like. And I'm glad to have this drawing so that when I make the roof, which is what I'm going to work on next, I can just paste that on here. And I see this floor needs realigned again. So that's what it would look like in the engine. Which I think I'll open up. I think I need to open that up once per stream to confirm that all this goes somewhere. So that's what a house would look like here. Although, looks like I gotta make this window quite a bit bigger. Well, I guess I knew that. It was already just a mini version of what it was going to be.